We've been talking about it on this channel all week, and why not, right? Bama did not make the college football playoff. They were the first team left out. Want to get Mike Johnson's opinion on that and more? The All-American Report brought to you by mybookie.ag coming up. Let me hit the best open on YouTube. There we go, baby. There we go. Look, that is going to be used for the ReliQuest Outback Bowl. I mean, what do we call that now?
I don't know. I mean, this whole thing drives me nuts, man.
No, it doesn't, dude. I love that.
Dude.
I love that. Come on.
Can we get the hang on?
I got my Atlanta coffee mug too, man. Look at that. Atlanta.
How about the 09 media guide? Can we not
love that. Look at you.
Use that photo?
No. No, I love this.
No, here's the better shot.
The backside. I bet Lindsay likes that.
Terrible butt. Terrible butt.
Man. I love looking at deal like you'll swing into places. I was at the hotel, the Hyatt Regency, and then out in the lobby they have like this this silent auction for charity, and it's got like this picture of the 09 like touchdown, and I'm like, oh, look, there's Mike right there paving a way for Mark Ingram, like, but it was hard to tell it was you. You're like piled with like two guys on top of you. You like your helmet's turned. It's not a glamorous job being on the offensive line.
No, man. One of my favorite pictures is, and I don't know where you'd see it at, but we scored in at LSU in 2008 when we scored on a quarterback sneak to win in overtime.
I was there.
All you can see is my forearm. Like that's literally all you can see of my body. But the D lineman that's like holding the A gap is like bowed backwards. Like he's like, and I'm like, God, that's like my favorite photo. Not because you can see me, but just because I know what we were doing to that guy.
Yeah, right.
Like, hey, you thought you were gonna win this game, bro? Like, no, you're not. I'm about to roll you out of this thing. We're about to score a touchdown. So yeah, I mean, I don't like this photo. But
I love it. Come on,
good ones out there, man.
Stop it. Your open is the best one. You should see Coker's open.
It's a good open.
You want me to play Coker's open for you? It's an elephant cartoon character with whistling. I mean, you come in strong with that open. I mean, embrace it, dude. You got to embrace it. I'm going to tell you what I'm embracing is I'm watching the next round yesterday, and Jim Dunaway, love Jim, right? Legend of broadcasting in Alabama. I've been a Jim Dunaway fan for a long time. Now I get
Before
to work.
You go any further, I was broadcasting Alliance Football League games for the Birmingham Iron like 7 years ago, and I got a note on like Twitter from Jim. I had never met Jim, and he was like, "Hey, just wanted to tell you I think you're doing a good job." And I was like, "No kidding." I was like, "Dude, that means a lot coming from Jim." Like I knew of Jim a long time ago, man. I'm with you. He's a legend.
Yeah, he is. You knew him when he had hair, like he had a full head. He looked like a different cat back then. And I'll tell you, man, like one of the things I do like about him is he's going to give you his take. Like he calls and tells you that or texts you, that. Well, he has not liked one of my takes. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, Mike. Sunday and Monday were two rough days for me because I was pissed.
Were you in the crosshairs a little bit,
dude? I'm going to tell you why. I probably did it to myself, but I don't care. I was furious that the SEC and Greg Byrne, who I really don't put a lot on him, but I put it on the SEC, that our leadership would have signed into a college football playoff where Boise and Arizona State get buys and they take SMU and Illinois Indiana over Alabama. And let me tell you why. Let me give you my reasoning. High school wasn't always a great dedicated student, right? They had 4 levels of classes, Mike. They had
you?
Yeah,
are you sure?
Me. Okay. I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you this though, man. It was a story of triumph, right? I started out in level 1 classes. Like when I'm talking about level 1, I mean, sign your name on a piece of paper and
remedial.
And yeah, right. Like, and you taught, like, that this was, I was not a kid that paid attention a lot, and I had a lot of outbursts. But by the time I left, I got really motivated and dedicated to the school, and I was in level 4 classes. Okay. Level 4 was like college advanced placement. By the time I left, like I didn't have time to do a whole lot because I was busy. Right. I got the grades that I got in level 1. They by no means could you compare them to the grades that you got in level 4. Level 4 was really hard and it was real. Level 1 was show up and sign your name on a piece of paper. But you could get an A in both classes, and it looks like an A on the report card. But there's no equivalent, right? That's how the scheduling is. 9 and 3 in an SEC, Mike, is still a higher grade to me than going to 11 and 12 and 0 in level 1 or the ACC. And I just don't understand how this committee doesn't see that. I don't care that Alabama lost at Oklahoma. If SMU went to Oklahoma and won, it'd be like they'd make T-shirts about it. They'd have a parade. Sorry.
Well, first of all, let's break this down into two different sectors.
You were a teacher.
Here because
Tell them,
I think you're having two different conversations. Is the system a bad system? Yes. It's an imperfect system. But the problem is there is no perfect system for the way college football is set up. There's not a possibility of a perfect system. Too many teams, right? Not everybody can play everybody, and they're all over the country, and they all have different rules. They all have different opponents, right? So it's really hard to get a perfect system. So I like the fact that there's a committee. I think the committee tries their best. I think the committee is dealt a hard hand, and I think every single year, no matter what happens, the committee is going to be dealt a hand that somebody's going to be mad, right? I just think that's how it's going to work. It's just college football. It's always been an imperfect science. The other part of your conversation that you are having is that Bama should have been in. That's where I'm going to stop you. No, they should not have been in. Bama did not deserve to be in. SMU deserved to be in. Right? Clemson deserved to be in. Whatever else you want to call it. Now, look, you can go look at SMU's schedule. I get that. I will stop short of saying that Bama should have gotten in over SMU. I don't think Bama should have got in. And the reasons are very clear. And I don't know what conversations you've been having with Jake, but I have to assume that if Jake and I were having this conversation, or me and another player that wears the national title ring, this is how this conversation would go, Vic. Winning a national title at Alabama is supposed to be special. It's supposed to be something that you overcame mountains, right? You did something that nobody else was able to do. Winning a national title at Alabama is not going to Oklahoma and losing by 3 touchdowns. The worst loss that program has had in 2 decades.
We got a touchdown. That's not special, Mick. Mike.
What?
We got a touchdown stolen. You know what would have happened?
Okay. That's still they're an average
that
football
makes it 2 touchdowns.
Team,
I know.
So winning a national title at Alabama means something. Wearing a ring in Alabama means something. That's what this place was built on. Not backdooring a playoff when you just lost by 3 tuds 2 weeks ago. That's not what Alabama football is. That's not what Alabama's national titles are. And you can talk about what SMU. Here's how I really feel about it. You want me to put the nail in it? SMU would beat Oklahoma. That's how I feel, and that's why I'm okay with what happened. Bama should have been left out. I want the national titles to continue to be special at a place like Alabama. I don't want to hear, well, they lost to Vanderbilt and Nashville, and they lost to Oklahoma and Norman, and they lost to Tennessee, and they backdoored it. They got hot at the right time. No, dude, that is to me, that's everything against what Alabama is. I don't need Alabama to backdoor anything. We ought to kick the front door in on the college football playoff, win the SEC, get the bye week, and run the table like that. Could you have the number 2 seed? Could you lose this title and go? Sure. Mm-hmm. Could you be where Tennessee's at? Sure. But I'm not the whole thing where we're like, we get 3 losses and, we left it up to the committee and their opinion. And all that. No, man, I'm not about that life. I want the ring to be something special. The ring that I have is still very special to me. And I think you ought to have to go through hell and high water to be able to get one, not backdoor the college football playoff, dude.
That is cool. Look, I love the 09 team. Where are you guys at? Oh, you're over there. You're right back there on my wall. There it is. Look at that, man. You could take that to Pawn Stars and, man, you would be rich.
They wouldn't want it. Well, one of the rings I had, told you before, one of the rings I had got stolen or something at some point. So
I remember that. You had to fight hard to get another ring. All right. So
I did.
I got a feeling that I know where you're going to go with my next argument.
Uh-oh.
I want your comment on. So, because I disagree with you, but I do respect your opinion. And look, you're entitled to it. I'm entitled to mine. My opinion was this, and I might have said this a little bit out of just sheer disappointment that a team with a level 1 schedule gets credit for being the same grades or better than Alabama when they played clearly a tougher schedule, had more top 25 wins, beat the SEC champ. And when you play week in and week out, Mike, I think it's going to be different than when you guys played, just because these teams, they can go buy players. They can buy the things that they weren't able to go out there and get in the past. Maybe they were buying it before, but it's just there's a lot of parity. Your season's still my favorite season, so I'm not disparaging at all. You guys were the best. I went to all your games. You know that. Love you guys. That was like the being in the Rose Bowl, still my favorite college football memory, and seeing Texas on one side and Bama on the other. But I said this, okay? You don't get rewarded for playing a tough schedule. And it's just because, you beat Georgia and then you lose to Vandy, it is tough physically to go through these NFL schedules. I mean, it's why teams in the NFL don't go undefeated. They might beat, the best team in the league and lose to the worst team because it's tough, man. It's tough week in and week out. Bama doesn't have the SMU schedule where there's a lot of, just show up and get the win games anymore. The SEC just isn't like that. Now that you can spend your money that you get on TV for players and to make your program better. And I said that if it was, I would explore going independent. I mean, do I really need the SEC? Like, I get it. The SEC's the SEC, but Bama's the biggest brand in the SEC. And if you can't go to bat for us and get us in over SMU coming in with level 1, we're level 4, our 9-3, in my opinion, still better than their 11-1, where they haven't beaten anybody with a number next to their name. There's no signature wins there. But I think I said this, maybe not as serious as, like I'm talking to you today about it, but I look at Notre Dame and I'm like, you know what? You can craft the schedule that you want. You have an equivalent brand to Notre Dame. You could sign your own TV contract and you could be in the college football playoff every single year. If Bama played SMU schedule, Mike, they'd have won all their games.
But that's my point. We don't know that, Mick. We don't know that.
You don't think they'd
beat? We don't know that. No, that's what my point is. They should have beat Oklahoma. They should have beat Oklahoma. That's my whole point.
But Oklahoma
if we played SMU schedule, we would have probably had a very similar result. We should have beat Oklahoma. That's that. Like SMU, you can talk down about SMU schedule all you want.
You're holding that Oklahoma
wasn't better than half of SMU schedule. Oklahoma's terrible. They're terrible. Like we can't lose by 3 touchdowns to that team and then act like SMU just steamrolling these other squads. That's not how we're. Let me put it to you this way. I think Texas Tech's got to do this, and I'm with you. The SEC is the toughest conference. I don't think Bama's the biggest brand in the SEC anymore. I think
Who's that? Texas?
Yeah, it is. By the numbers, it is. Their NIL's the most. Their alumni base. Their whatever. You can like it. You're just swayed by
McConaughey. You love McConaughey.
I mean, the SEC field pass for the SEC championship game had McConaughey on for a little bit. It's like the highest numbers of field passes ever done.
Well, the girls love him and the guys think he's cool.
You respect him, right? And it's just by the way he talks, Mick. It's just, he talks like this.
We had Hank Jr. at our game and Kid Rock.
Well, look, man, here's the thing. And I actually, this resonated with me. The Texas Tech coach, I think, is the one that said this. We got to stop acting like all these games are played in Vegas because they're not, man. They're not played in Vegas. Like, we keep talking about the SEC, and I think that's good. I'm with it. The SEC is the best. Oregon played in the Big Ten championship game this year. They're the number 1 team. They came from the Pac-12. Arizona State won the Big 12 championship. They're from the Pac-12. Texas played in the SEC championship. They're from the Big 12, right? I mean, SMU was a non-Power 4, Power 5 a year ago, and goes to the ACC championship and almost beats Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
that's kind of where I'm at on this.
We'll
man.
see.
Like
we'll see.
My thing is that, like I said, you can talk down about SMU's schedule all you want to. Who's the team that beat Notre Dame? NIU beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, like,
But that was coming off of a big win the week before, man. And that's what's tough.
The rigors of the SEC that make the SEC tough. But I also firmly believe that you need to win the games you're supposed to win. That's the formula in the SEC. It's not winning all your games. It's winning the games you're supposed to win. If you flip around Bama's loss to Oklahoma and say they lost to Georgia and just flip those two around, the argument is much more outstanding, right? Or Tennessee or whatever, just one of those things. Like the argument is much more outstanding, but it's not like you just went out there and like Georgia lost to Ole Miss and Bama.
Right.
Like, okay, like that's two tough road games they just lost. And I just think that, to me, like I said, man, I'm fine with it. At the end of the day, I want it to mean something. I want it to be special. I want to know about the grit in the locker room and the Rolando McClain speeches or the Damian Square speeches or this guy. Like, I want it to feel special, man, and it just doesn't feel special this year. I'm a big fan of Kaylen DeBoer and everybody else on this team. I really am. But this team didn't have the special feel. They felt lifeless 3 weeks ago in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. That's what they felt like.
And they did get screwed out of a touchdown. And, Georgia came back against Georgia Tech late. We'll never know because of the bad officiating, which is another problem I have with the SEC. But I'll give you that. Look, man, I love the SEC. I do. I love the pageantry and the matchups and all that. But what I'm saying is, you can't, if you're the SEC, you signed on to this where Boise State and Arizona State are getting first round buys. They're rolling in with that level 1A that I'm telling you I got. And I'm telling you, dude, you show up, you write your name on a piece of paper. And if you're there on time and keep your mouth shut, you get an A, right? You get to level 4 and it's different. You got to bust your ass. And they're not in a bust your ass conference. They don't have any top tier wins. And I know Bama should have beat Oklahoma, but you know what? They did beat Georgia. And they did beat Missouri, and they did beat South Carolina, and they went down to Baton Rouge. I don't know if you heard about this place. It's called Death Valley. And if you go there at night, you always lose. Everybody loses when you go there at night, and they stack the deck against you. And you know what happened? We kicked their ass down there.
Dude, I could switch the team names, and Nick Saban gave us a speech that sounded just like this one time. And it was about, maybe it was when we played in the blackout against Georgia. It was something like that.
I was there for that too.
And he's giving us a speech, and he's like, you know what, man? None of it means anything. It doesn't mean shit. You strap your chin strap on and you go play. He's like, when I was at Michigan State, we went down to play Notre Dame. They're wearing the green jerseys. Nobody beats them with the green jerseys. They got touchdown Jesus in the end zone. Nobody beats them when touchdown Jesus is looking. Nobody. He's like, you know what? We kicked their ass 36-0. Guess what? Nobody cares they're wearing green jerseys. And I was like, yeah. I
love it.
I love it. I love it, man. I love it. But that's exactly my point. That's it. What you were saying on the flip side is exactly my point about Bama being left out. Make it special. Yeah. There's nothing special about losing my 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma. There's nothing special about that. You should win that game 10 times out of 10. And that, with everything on the line, you were lifeless in that game.
I pull for Coach DeBoer. I got to tell you, man, on a personal level, I've probably said this on a lot of these shows, but I like him. I just like him as a person. I like the fact that he's a great guy. I like seeing him honor the people that are around the program. And I've talked about this on my shows. People know I Brett, my partner, died 2 weeks before that. DeBoer did our show, and him and Brett, making DeBoer laugh was awesome. It was the highlight of maybe the highlight of his life. It was the personal, maybe professional career, but the fact that he did that, man, I want to see this guy have success. I think not making the college football playoff definitely hurts Alabama's brand. It's not a good look when you get beat out by SMU for a spot. But you're right. This team and their inconsistencies and their lack of discipline cost them. And I don't disagree with that. I see that too.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing, and just to touch on the Coach DeBoer thing. I was actually talking today, the Field Pass. We were just talking about the SEC Field Pass. It was on SC Network or ESPN2 or whatever it was during the game this past weekend. That had Cole Kublik, that had Marty McGee, Harry Douglas, one of my old teammates in Atlanta. Shane Beamer was on that. And I was making the point that I don't know what Shane Beamer is or is not in terms of building a championship program. But I think Shane Beamer is a lot like a lot of us would be if we were suddenly thrust into an SEC coach's role. He's personable. Like, he just seems like the kind of dude you'd want to be around. He seems real. I think Kaylen DeBoer has a lot of those qualities.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to really pay off in this next era of college football, to where it's not so mechanic like, it just like, and as much as I love playing for Nick, I think that is kind of that era of Nick Saban style coaching is locked in that era of time. I don't think that happens anymore.
No.
The whole thing where, and I love Coach Saban to death, but if you got locked into a room with him and had to have a conversation to save your life for 2 hours, it would be very tough.
Yeah.
Outside of talking about football. So I think there's something to that, man. I think building that culture around what Alabama is for now, I think they're ahead of the curve. I think that a lot of these places, I think that's one of the reasons Brian Kelly struggles, man. I really do. I think that when you look at Brian Kelly's inability to land interior defensive linemen in the portal and some of these other positions, I think that's why he struggles, man. I don't think he's personable in that way.
Yeah.
And I think I think guys like that, you'll continue to see it over and over again, where it's like, I was thinking about leaving and I think I'm going to stay because it's a good culture here. Right. I know my coaches have that love for me. I have that feeling with my team.
Yeah. No, and look what Milroe said about him. In that that press conference, he's like, he made every day fun.
How about that, man? I thought that was
perfect, dude.
I thought that was huge to hear Milroe say that. I understand we have no idea what the future of the quarterback position holds for Alabama, for Jalen Milroe. Yeah. I was talking to Georgia fans today. There's thought that Carson Beck might want to come back to Georgia. And there's a lot of Georgia fans that are going, I don't know if we want Carson Beck back. So it's interesting, man. I don't know what the future holds, but to hear Jalen Milroe come out and say that and lay it out the way he did gives you a little bit of insight into the locker room and the way a lot of these players probably feel about Coach DeBoer. Man, I'm just telling you, dude, like I hope Alabama fans don't take that for granted, because I think that we got caught up after the Vanderbilt game, after the Malachi Moore situation. Listen, nobody hated it more than me. I came on here and ran into you about it. I was like, it's embarrassing to watch that. But I also feel like that'll start to change. The more Kaylen DeBoer knows these players and recruits them and everything else and has that kind of inside relationship with them. But I just feel like being on a personal level with them and being real with these guys is going to be monumental over this next era, man. I don't know, decade, whatever, of college football as the rules stay the same. It's huge to me. I think it's a massive deal when a quarterback like Jalen Milroe comes out and says how much he loves Coach DeBoer and how much Coach DeBoer loves football. Yeah. Dude, come on, man. You can't pay for that. You can't pay for that kind of thing in a locker room these days.
No. And you're exactly right, because now you have a choice, right? And you were talking about Coach Saban. I was really good friends with some guys that worked at Alabama, and they were talking about how no one wanted to sit next to him on the plane rides. It was like,
listen, I showed up to
I didn't like him, but it would just be awkward, especially if you had to be on there with 2 or 3 hours next to him.
I showed up to, I think it was a 2013, 2014. I don't remember when it was, to do the captain's jersey ceremony. They bring back a former captain to present the new captains with their jersey. And at this point, the captains didn't know who they were. So you're telling these kids that they've been voted as team captains, which was cool. I thought that was awesome. Now this year they did it before the season, but so I show up and I'm like, I have my wife with me, and actually I know it was 2017 because Tua had to stand up with the hip, or 2018.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I had my wife with me and I'm like, hey, where's our seats? And the lady's like, well, she's going to be sitting here. You were actually on the stage. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like looking for my name placard, and I get all the way down towards the podium. And I'm like, I'm sitting between the AD and Coach Saban. Like, I'm like the guest of honor, dude. I'm like, man, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting conversation. And he sat down and we exchanged pleasantries. Actually, the best part of the evening was getting to watch Coach Saban take notes on his notepad during the whole ceremony. Man, just this video is too long, or the food's cold or whatever else, man. He's just taking down notes, always taking notes. But
hey, I love that.
That was the thing, is like I sat there next to him for 2 hours and we exchanged pleasantries. How are you doing now? What are you up to? This, that, and the other. But at the same time, it was like, you don't have that, it's not like nobody ever looks at Coach Saban and says, man, he's a fatherly figure. It's like, nah, he's not that guy. He's just, you respect him and you love the person he molded you into because he understands what's necessary in life. You know what I mean? So accountability and things like that. So it just,
always working,
I just think that it's a different era, man. It just is. I mean, you've seen Junction Boys where Bear Bryant, the guy has the heat stroke and Bear Bryant's like, no, you can't play. I don't care if you can, crutch onto the sideline. You're not allowed to be on the team because you quit. and I'm just like, okay, that's stuck in that era. That's just what that era was. We still love Bear Bryant. It just that's different to me, man. Just it's just all different.
Yeah, it's so funny. Well, love Coach Saban, man. I do. But it's the Coach DeBoer era, and I don't know. I feel like 9-3. I can't argue that it was a bad season. Could have been a lot better. I think Alabama easily should have been 11-1, but it's hard to get there because you have to have that attention to detail each and every week. And I just think it's Coach Saban saying that you're going to be disciplined or disappointed. And, this team had everything to be disciplined and not disappointed, but they're going to be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I mean, the drop off from the college football playoff to the bowl games is so vast now. That, Mike, I was, and this, I've never been an advocate for this college football playoff. I always said that the regular season was the playoff. I love the fact that the regular season games had so much meaning. Now, hey, they should just expand the damn thing to get all the bowl games in there. I would rather have an extra team or two that doesn't deserve to be in there than have teams that deserve to be in there and aren't. And my point is this: SMU and Indiana do not deserve to be in there. Boise State and ASU should not have buys, right? But Alabama, South Carolina, Miami, Ole Miss, those teams belong in there. They played better schedules. They beat better competition. They went in and week out, played the best in the country. And we're in the damn Outback Bowl. Do you like the onions? And I'm glad that we didn't play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Thank God they picked South Carolina, because I would have just died if it was Bama playing in the Cheez-It Bowl against Illinois. Like, who cares? I wanted to go to the Gator Bowl, Mike, but I don't want to play Duke. So we got the best of the bowls against Michigan, but the drop-off's so big. And the bowl games are going to be opt-out city if they don't make these things relevant in my mind. So I say you just expand this shit and let's go.
Well, and I also think that eventually they're going to make contracts for college football players once they can get a handle on it, and these bowl games are going to be part of it. If not, it's just going to, continue to decline. I'm also like, what happened to the days where it was just the name of the bowl was the name of the bowl? You know what I mean? Like, we used to have all these bowl banners on the fence at the football complex, and it'd be like, hey, Peach Bowl, Gator Bowl, Citrus Bowl, this, that, and the other. And it's like ReliaQuest Bowl and Cheez-It Bowl and what was the one that was in Tampa Rays Stadium? Gasparilla, Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl.
Pop-Tart Bowl. You eat the mascot.
Like, what are we doing, mascot? Man? Like, that's to me. Well, and honestly, not to go off on too deep of a tangent. Go ahead. That right there is a small piece of why college football has the problem it has now. Because everybody other than the players was making money. It used to drive me nuts. Like, I was never for players making money, but I hated how much other people made money off the players.
Oh, dude,
it was like
ridiculous, man.
It's like, dude, like, I mean, when I'm in school, Tim Tebow is plastered all over every ESPN commercial there is. They can use his name and likeness, but he can't. You know what I mean? Right. So that's one. Right. I was like, I don't want players to make money, but I don't want everybody else to be making all this money either.
Well,
like,
let me throw this at you.
Well, Florida's taking on Alabama this weekend. Like, they shouldn't have all this media responsibility and things are going. That's where, to me, like the whole Bad Boy Mowers or Cheez-It or Pop-Tart, that's where they really started screwing the pooch on the whole college football thing. That's what ripped the Band-Aid off. Everybody else is making money. Well, for us to be playing a ridiculous Pop-Tart Bowl. Like,
yeah, but so I'm going to tell you, it's more than that to me. It's your former teammate, Tyrone Prothro, who would have he'd made $1 million or more in the NFL. Easily. He was one of the best players I ever saw. The guy did everything the right way. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love him. And I've told him this. I don't know him, but I've run into him and told him I loved watching him play. And the guy breaks his leg, and he's like a high school coach working at a bank somewhere. That guy ought to have been paid for that. Like that guy ought to have made a bunch of money. Basically they should have taken care of him. And I'm not talking about, hey, I'm going to pay for your surgery. No, I mean, instead of sending women's basketball to go play in front of an empty arena, put that money in his pocket because he's the one that put it in your pocket. It just made no sense to me, dude.
I had somebody a few months ago that I met that was a big Alabama fan. I wish I could remember the guy's name. But he said something like, hey, do you have one of those pages where we can go buy your stuff now? Because Bama does the thing now for former players. They sign up, and now they can sell like my merchandise. And you go in there and buy a Mike Johnson jersey.
No way.
Yeah, they have that. I'm like, I have former teammates that have it on like their Twitter profile.
Can I look it up right now?
I don't know, but somebody asked me about it. And I said, hey, do me a favor. If you're going to do that, go buy something from Tyrone Prothro.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Like, I only played with Tyrone for like a half a year or 3/4 of a year, whatever it was, in 2005. One of my favorite teammates ever, man. He embodied everything that program was supposed to mean back then. Yeah. And I'm with you. Every time I see him, I tell him I freaking love him, man. He's a good dude, and he got dealt a bad hand. And now I'm like, now that it's open season on that stuff, I'm like, dude, I will funnel as many people as I can to that guy's profile. Go buy everything that says Prothro 4 on it that you can buy. We should, because he deserves it.
You're right. We should. Remember we were doing the tailgate show and his brother was on there with us?
Yeah, Quentin.
Yeah, Quentin. Yeah, so fun. I tell him the same thing.
Cat,
like I love your brother. Like, no, I'm serious. He's one of my favorite Bama players ever.
Yeah.
So funny, man. It's crazy how 2005 is so long ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago to me.
It's almost 20 years, dude. Almost 20 years.
You're killing me over here. You're killing me, Smalls.
I was a senior 20 years ago in high school.
Dude, come on, man. Well, I don't know. I guess you talked me out of the we need to leave the SEC argument. So
I mean, dude, come on.
Look, I was just pissed off, Mike. Can a man be pissed off about
I've been there, dude.
About just like some injustice going on against the
Let me tell you something. With the 16 teams they have in the SEC now, not that they wouldn't hurt if Bama left, but they would. I don't know who they'd get. They would pull somebody else in and be like, all right, bye.
Okay, all right. Let me say this. I got you. But this is the other thing I said. I guarantee I could do this. I could put a better tournament together with 12 of the 16 SEC teams than that shit show that the NCAA put together. And that's
true. Now I agree with you on that.
Think about that, man. Think about having.
But to your point, we just lived
Texas, Bama.
We just lived through that, though.
What's
that? We just lived through that. It was called the regular season. We just lived through that.
I know, but I mean, this tournament with like Boise State, like their claim to fame is that they got over against Oregon. You know what that means in wrestling, Mike? That means that you've got this close and you lost. You didn't win anything.
Hey, before we go, you disrespected a minute ago. Let me tell you this. This is my upset for the first round. SMU is going to beat Penn State.
Oh, come on, dude.
SMU is going to beat Penn State, dude. That quarterback they have reminds me of the old El Roberson. Remember El Roberson at Kansas State?
He is good. I love that he runs and then he'll.
There ain't nobody from Penn State going to tackle that guy. Like running around like crazy. He throws an ugly ball.
That's your lock of the week on mybookie.ag.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, that reminds me. Let me go ahead and hit this real quick. Guys, as you hang out with us right now, take advantage of this 300% deposit bonus for the casino and 50 free spins using the code NEXTROUND, mybookie.ag. Say you're at the in-laws. They've got the Macy's parade on instead of football. You know, the kids are like climbing on stuff, Mike. You're irritated. You know, you just want something to get your mind. Use those 50 free spins, man. Get the end of the couch, find a little quiet time. Spin. That gets you through the holidays. That's our best deal. 300% deposit match, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, put it on SMU. I don't know what the spread is. 8,
I'm not putting it on SMU. They're not going to win. Come on, man. Come on.
I get you. I'm going to put a pretty good amount of money that they at least cover.
They're 8.5 point underdog.
Penn State is a flawed team, dude. And I know they came close against Oregon, but.
Hey, but that's all you need.
The only thing in their favor is the weather.
You don't have to beat the
weather's gonna be in their favor.
Just get close.
Yeah.
Get over.
I do well. Let me take that back. I think Tennessee probably stands the best chance of winning. I think the minute things start to go sideways for Ohio State, I think Herb Street actually brought this up. Ohio State might get booed in their own home playoff game. Like,
dude, Ohio
legitimate shot that they get booed.
They're winning the championship.
You think Ohio State will?
Yep. You know why?
And
you know why?
To my point about Bama not making it.
They have the best players.
To my point about Bama not making it, it's not going to feel. I'm not going to think that's a special team by any means.
You don't think spending $20 million on your roster?
You can't lose to You cannot lose to 6-6 Michigan and try to tell me that you're special.
Anything can happen in a rivalry game. Anything.
It can. We've seen it happen, man. We've definitely seen it.
Did you watch the Iron Bowl last year?
I did. I mean, hell, case in point, 2009 Iron Bowl. Case in point.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. It took.
But we won. But we won both those games.
Yeah, I know. But it came down to the end. I mean, who would have thought that it would have? They were ready to run out on the field on us.
Hell, did you see the 2013 Iron Bowl? Whenever the freaking kick six was.
I don't want to talk.
Guess what? We didn't freaking go anywhere.
I like that one.
So
I didn't like that one, but they were good that year, though. All right. Well, this has been fun. You know, you've kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit. I'm telling you, man, it's been a tough week. I'm not with you on the, I want to get into the playoff. 12 teams in the playoff. You play that schedule. I get you lose some, but you can't. Why are the losses valued more than the wins? That's what I don't understand.
You should be really upset. The fact that by the standards set in the playoff, that somehow Clemson 10 hours after they beat SMU is ranked behind SMU. 10 hours. Like, what are we doing? That lets you know it's a messed up system.
Well, Bama was ahead of SMU on both of the other polls. Like, they had to do work to make that happen. And then the other part of it, and I'm not happy about any of it, right? Is how in the hell is SMU not playing Texas? Oh, because Texas is crying that they don't want to play SMU. It'd be like Bama and UAB. Like, why would we want to play them? And it could help them recruiting and all that.
Dude,
I say I want to use the F
word. You're giving SMU right now is off the charts.
That would have been a much better thing. Can you imagine that, though? You put Indiana and Notre Dame together. They haven't played on a regular basis since the 50s. Why not put SMU in there and let them go in and play Texas? And all of a sudden that becomes, because Texas didn't want that. They don't want to help them at all. They don't want to legitimize their program. Who gives a shit? You put them in, and then send Clemson up to Penn State.
I'm with you on that. Let me just say this too. The only reason SMU's in over Bama is because of the fourth quarter of that game. If the game ends at the third quarter and SMU's down by 21, 24, whatever it was,
I know. It could have gone worse. It could have gone worse.
Yeah,
How about them not tackling the dude on the kick? I'm like, and here's the other thing, Mike. I can guarantee you, bet you everything in your office there, your ring set, your football that you caught, that's a touchdown that you caught as an offensive lineman. Never happens. 2 helmets, the picture of you kissing the trophy. I'll bet you all of that's the first SMU game that you watched all year.
Oh, for sure.
So absolutely. That's my point. You know why? Nobody watched them. Do you see their television?
That shouldn't matter. That shouldn't matter. That's my point. That shouldn't matter.
When they were playing Pitt, you weren't watching. You weren't tuned in for Louisville.
It was the first Arizona State game I watched all year too, and I love Scatterbo. Like, I was like, this guy is a Jesse. That guy is unbelievable.
He's like the Merrill Hodge, white running back.
That shouldn't have anything to do with
it. A bowling ball.
Nor should Texas not want to play SMU. To your point, I don't care about that.
Yeah. I think like everybody's like, this white running back. This guy is like, we just don't see this a whole lot. Like, he's a pinball.
First of all, they both had white running backs. That was something you probably don't see very often at all. But
like Christian McCafferty is like, in the NFL, is like really the only dude, that you see that's like a good white running back.
Toby Gerhardt.
Not that it matters. I don't even care about race, but I'm just saying it's just an oddity.
Yeah, it's just you just don't see it very much. No, I'm with you on that. It was it's like we used to have, we used to get do fines in our offensive line room and with the Falcons. I probably told you the story before, but it's like, if the scouting report was like, hey, he's a cerebral player. He's gonna know the game plan real well, be in the right place at the right time. It's like, dude, you're being so racist, man. A great athlete, flies around, physical.
Right. You knew what to expect, is what you're saying. It's a shame, man. I hate that. Oh my God, that's so funny though. Hey, it is what it is. Okay, it is what it is, and I could take the SEC and have a better tournament than this college football playoff. All right, what do you got? What do you got going on, Mike? Can we get together again this week? Is it?
Let's do it,
Is that
man.
doable for you? Now, and I'll calm down a little bit.
It's everything's starting to calm down for me. Now the Falcons do play on Monday night next week against possibly Desmond Ridder, so that ought to be very interesting. So
it's a Monday night game?
Yeah, Monday Night Football, man. You just know that the ESPN execs are upset with that decision that they gave a few months back, man. But yeah, the Falcons versus the Las Vegas Raiders in the Monday night doubleheader this weekend. So yeah, man, I'm all over it. Let's get together again tomorrow, possibly, or Friday, or whatever you want to do it, and let's put a show out, man, because there's plenty to talk about.
I hate to bring it back up. I got one other thing I got to ask you, because it'll be so irrelevant by the next show. But I mean, I've been getting hammered, and on like in my inbox and on social media, people not happy with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy for politicking during the game for SMU.
Well, first of all, I'm a pretty big fan of Greg these days. I just got to tell you that. I know that he catches a lot of heat from Bama fans. I think he's good at what he does. I think there's a reason that he's where he's at. And I know that people think that he goes out of his way to be anti-Bama. I don't see it that way. I don't. I never have, man. I just think that he is very, very, very unjaded by it. And look, man, you can talk about SMU in Texas. Greg's very familiar with the SMU brand. He grew up right there. So I don't mind it. I wasn't aware of it. I was at a place that didn't really want to play the sound out loud at a Christmas party. I won't go down that road. I was
right.
Me and my wife were having words that I was going home if they didn't turn the volume up.
Yeah, right.
But I don't have a problem with that, man. I think Greg is very impartial. That's what his job is. And if that's how he felt, and that's how he felt. To me, it would be worse if Greg was like lying to us, about how he felt. I would feel worse about it.
Hey,
he
that's
feels
a great
how
point.
he feels. I'm the same way. I thought SMU should be in. I said it on our radio show over here in Atlanta the other day. I was like,
Mike,
you can't tell SMU they've got to be a Power 4 school, and then they step up and play a Power 4 schedule. To me, and also conference championship games, I think those losses in terms of the voters and the committee, I think conference championship game losses count half a game, not a whole game. I think it's like 1.5 losses. And so it is what it is. I mean, Greg's fine with me. I think they do a good job. I don't have a problem with the way he calls games or his narrative for or against Alabama. I think that's just how he sees it.
Okay. Well, he does a good job on the games.
I think so too.
All right, guys, you get in the comment section. Give Mike your opinion in the comment section. What do you think? Did you like the commentary by Greg McElroy?
Give Mick your opinion too. Should Bama leave the SEC?
You're trying to close the show.
You're going independent.
Don't make me laugh, man.
We're going streaking.
I was so pissed. I'm still pissed.
You're ridiculous.
I can't stand you right now.
You're ridiculous, man.
Rolling through that weak ass soft tissue paper participation trophy schedule like you were 11-1. Come on, man. Play nobody. Beat somebody. Then come talk to me.
The Bama should beat somebody too, man. If look,
they beat Georgia.
Look, I'm just going to tell you, if you flipped it around and flip it around and just say that Bama beats Oklahoma but loses to Auburn, I'd feel the same way. I'd be like, dude, they're not any good.
If they lost to Auburn, I wouldn't be taking up for them.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand that?
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, y'all need to go.
We've seen enough. Enjoy
that Outback Bowl, peeps. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us at Roll Tide.